All right, welcome back to another week and another episode of the Grayed Out Podcast. Tonight, we are recording episode number 14. I'm happy that you're here with us. If you're listening, if you're watching, thanks for joining. Just to be transparent, this is take 2 of episode 14. We tried to record episode 14 last week, ran into a few technical snafus, if we're just honest. So being a little bit transparent, we hit a couple technical brick walls, and things just didn't go so well. Didn't have time to get back in front of the microphone and the camera, so this is take 2 of episode 14, if you're being honest. But I'm just to let you know, I could have lied about it. I could have just said this. I just took a week off because it's my prerogative, right? It's not my job. I'm not getting paid for this. I mean, if you want to pay me for this, I'll be very honest. Message me or something. I don't know. I'd love it. Anyway, want to say thanks again for being here. If you are here at the Grayed Out Podcast, again, hit the like button. I realize you haven't even seen the whole video. Like it anyways. You're here anyway, hit the like button. Share the videos, subscribe, hit the bell for subscriptions and notifications, and you'll get to hear and whenever I'm putting out something new. That just helps me as I'm getting this rolling out, to get the word out, what it means to be in that politically homeless camp, in that middle ground, to be a political nomad, as it were. I'm not trying to buy into the garbage from the ends of both sides. I want to find out what's real and what's going to make a difference in our world today. So, that said, I'm Jay the Gray, and I hope you're here to get grayed out. One of the reasons we're here, I have a great affiliate program with Live Bearded. If you've ever seen the videos, you've seen the logo. The beard's in the logo. Love my beard. I take care of my beard. The guys over at Live Bearded have great and natural, all natural, 100%. No fake stuff, no junk, no garbage. Good for your skin, good for your beard, good for your hair if you want to use it. There's beard wash, beard balm, beard oil, mustache wax, which I just recently started using as my mustache has gotten a little longer. Trying to keep that thing under control. But head over to livebearded.com. The guys over there, they'll take care of you. And if you use the promo code GRAYEDOUTBEARD, you'll get 10% off of your purchase. So if you have a beard or you know somebody bearded, get them to take care of that thing, right? Gets you past the itch, keeps the wispy things from going all over the place. I know some nights you guys are watching the videos going, yeah, it doesn't always work. Yeah, but by the time I get through my day to here at the end of the day, and it still looks pretty good. I don't got time for like makeup and all that. You know, I don't have a green room. I don't know. I don't have time to do a makeover at night. I'm coming here after dinner and dishes and trying to help spread the word. So that's where we are tonight. And so given that this is from last week to this week, here's kind of the trajectory. A couple of weeks ago, I started thinking about a process, and it's something that was shared with me or shared on a page that I'm part of on Facebook. And I realized by saying I'm on Facebook, that automatically makes me old. But if you haven't paid attention to the name, Jay the Gray, yeah, I mean, I'm not a boomer, but I'm right behind him. I'm Gen X, so we're the next generation in line after the boomers. Anyway, so I've seen my fair share of life. And I was on Facebook in this group, and this picture was shared, and it was kind of how to deal with different variations of people who may not be fully on board with, the Black Lives Matter movement or whatever, and have different variations of different arguments. And I looked at most of them. I was like, yeah, no, you got to have something to say to some of these people. And really it was, largely targeted how to deal with white people, which I find ironic because if we're honest about the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of what's been co-opted and is, been quote unquote named Black Lives Matter movement has kind of been co-opted by a lot of well-meaning white people that are doing things in the name of Black Lives Matter that just, even black people I know are like, we never asked for any of that. And doesn't really, we didn't ask for shows to be canceled or the Golden Girls to be canceled or different weird things to be just torn. We didn't ask for that. We wanted police brutality to stop. That's what this started about. And that's what we want to keep it about. All the other stuff's kind of like, that's y'all. Anyway, and I'm going to try and put this picture I've discovered in my technical adventures, how to put things in this space. So I'm going to share this picture with you. And it is how to deal with the quote-unquote ally. And I thought to myself, this is really interesting because it comes from this angle of how to talk to someone who's got critical questions about the process. And so here's where I'm going with this, and here's why this is important. This week, what I'm hoping to talk about, as you may have guessed by the title of the episode, I'm hoping to deal with something that's important, bring a little levity, because that's my gig. Justice, right? The blind lady, scales, sword, right? Justice. What is actual justice? What is the founding principle of justice? What is equality of justice, like equality under the law? What is actual justice? And this got me really thinking about it, because this whole thing got me processing this statement and this quote that this picture uses by Dr. Martin Luther King. And it really got me kind of like, wait a minute. And here's what it says about how to deal with the quote-unquote ally. This is the well-meaning white person who wants to help black people, but has questions about the methods, the motives, the things like that. Like questioning, hey, why are we canceling Golden Girls? That doesn't seem, just shut up and get in your place. Don't be critical. You're low-key racist. That kind of is often the response. Now, these are trying to be like, these pictures, to be honest, to be fair, are trying to come at it with a more, I wouldn't say bureaucratic, but maybe a little more even-handed, maybe even gracious. But this one just struck me. Because as you can see in the picture, right, there's some, the ally says, why are you shaming people who are trying to do better? You're alienating allies and being divisive. Your comments are doing more harm than good. Now, I've found myself in some discussions over the course of time looking at the process of things like, hey, we're using statements like defund and abolish the police, and as someone who's pro-law enforcement, I'm like, that doesn't really communicate what you're after, because what you end up spending most of your time doing is explaining why defund the police isn't really defunding entirely the police, or abolishing the police isn't really abolishing all the total of police. Although, let's be honest, there's some people out there that'd be super happy to abolish the entire police force, scrap it, and imagine something different. And I'm like, y'all are crazy. I'm just going to come right straight to y'all are crazy. That's not going to happen. And here's the problem, like these terms, even in polling in the black community, don't have a lot of traction. And when you try to bring this up, they're like, oh, well, and you got to just stick with it because it makes a great slogan. And that's part of the problem, is just because it makes a good slogan doesn't mean it makes a good idea. And if you have to keep redefining the words in your slogan to not mean what the words actually mean, then there's really a problem. But people, when you get into those discussions, then if they get frustrated with you, then it's just, well, you're just advocating for more police brutality and you don't want to be part of the movement, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, they paint this no escape clause as to what this really means is talk to me nicely and make me comfortable. I will spend the rest of my day and energy discrediting you. And my intention here is not to discredit anybody, but it is to say, like, when we work at this, and believe me, like coming into tonight after taking a week from last week to this week, all of the things that are in the news and all of the things that are going on that I could have like spent my time tonight dealing with, I chose this because it's raw and honest, and it's where I'm at overall. And it's where I think a lot of people in the middle are, because when we look at what we see on the news and you see the one side and the other side, right? The one side screaming law and order, the other side screaming, no, the riots are justified, and we want to the extreme end where you have something like the Chaz chop, the chop Chaz, the Chaz choppy chop Chaz, and people in there getting shot and killed, right? And then no one's screaming for justice for them. That's super heartbreaking. Like, so for an ideology's sake, you're gonna miss the boat on justice for someone who was killed unjustly in an area that people advocated for as somehow a response to what's going on. And it's just not, like, let's just be honest, it's not okay. But here's what they say, right? This talk to me nicely. Make me comfortable. I'll spend the rest of the night. And I'm not trying to discredit, but when you paint that, you paint somebody into a logical corner that says either you agree with this or, right, we're gonna have to examine your motives. Are you arguing the other side? Are you arguing? It's like, no, I'm just trying to point out there's better ways we can actually accomplish what you're hoping to accomplish. And I would think that actually does make a good ally, because like when I was in the army was never in the army. I was in the army. We had allies, right? And allies aren't there just to wholesale say to you, hey, whatever you want to do, we're just on board. We're going to do whatever you say. No, they're there to say, well, that might not be a great plan because we understand the terrain better, the other people you're trying to engage better. Like whatever it is, the allies are there to bring benefits to the conversation. If you make the allies trophy allies, in other words, you're just here to be the white people on board with the movement and don't offer any critical thought and just do what we say and run down this chain of thought without ever criticizing anything, then you're actually not getting critical about the ideas, and you're just in an echo chamber that says everything you're doing is great. And everyone who's an adult understands and knows that that's not actually beneficial. So if you want to see change, you can't live in an echo chamber of everything that just verifies what you think. And we all need to be better about deconstructing our echo chambers. A couple episodes ago, I'll post that up in that corner. So in this, they say the way to respond is this quote from Martin Luther King Jr., and it says, I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with the English language tonight. I apologize for my words. I will slow down a little bit, although I'm trying to fit this into a, substantially not 1 hour long episode. Although maybe you hit the comments and say, hey, 1 hour would be fine with me. I've got a long commute. Whoever's listening. So, I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is ... the white moderate. Whenever you see ellipses in a quote, just so you understand, whenever you see ellipses in a quote, that means the person utilizing the quote is carving out a portion of the quote that may not convey the whole of their argument or may paint a different context or whatever. But anyways, we're just going to read what this says, right? Is the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action. End quote. But it's not the end of the quote, and that's part of the problem. It's really not the end of the quote. And see, the end of the quote provides more context for the quote itself. Now, I'm going to read you the whole quote. Now, the quote is from Martin Luther King Jr.'s Letters from Birmingham Jail, written in 1963. So in the throes of the civil rights movement, as Martin Luther King is trying to navigate the tensions between violent direct actions activists, peaceful activists, and what the black community was really crying out for, and trying to help people see what the whole need, right, of the black community was at this time, which I would say is somewhat different, if I'm honest. It was somewhat different then than it is now. This is a little bit different now than then. There are some similarities, undoubtedly. But if we can't be honest and say we've come a long way since 1963, then I think we're dishonoring a man like Martin Luther King Jr. Again, English language, man, tonight I am really struggling over this. I'm going to slow down a little bit. The idea is this. When you have a quote from someone, you need to have that entire quote because it paints the context. You can't just partially quote a quote at somebody to shut them up. Here's what it says. First, I must confess, because he started off this part of the letter saying that he needed to confess two things. But first, I must confess, over the last few years, I've been greatly disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached this is an important thing, I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride forward toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but can't agree with your methods of direct action. Hold on to that. Who paternalistically feels he can set the timetable for another man's freedom. Now, that's an important part of the quote. Wouldn't you agree? Who paternalistically feels he can set the timetable, like the timeline on which another man's freedom is based, who lives by the myth of time and who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. That's a little bit different than what you read in this picture, and I think that's important. Because what's happening is, and what I feel like, and in the shadow of other things that have been going on societally and in the news and across the board, when you think about the letter that Harpers put out, where you have all of these people signing a letter that says we've really got to push back against this idea of silencing ideas we don't like, because that's a subjective matter and that is a road toward fascism. And you have in that letter people signing like Noam Chomsky, who's a liberal, and other liberals like him signing along with other conservative thinkers, and they're being lambasted by like the social media spheres, just going, no, there's no way we can't have this equal time for other thoughts that we don't like, because that's where hate speech takes root. No, it's really actually not. And that's the problem, is everyone assumes that when you open the door to a dialogue over ideas, when you open the door to a dialogue over thoughts, and you're allowed to debate and dissent and have discussion, that somehow that's where someone who's really winsome and you know, they always point to Hitler. Well, Hitler, and it's like, can we not always equate everything to Hitler as because like Hitler was not the beneficiary of free speech. In fact, he quickly started silencing all speech that spoke out. Like, he quickly went down the fascist road. And it's like this idea that the problem was people were afraid to speak out, and no one is afraid to speak out. It's not the dialogue of free ideas that really begets, right, the proving ground or the birthing ground of hatred. It's when all good ideas are silenced for the benefit of one chain or channel of thought. And that is dangerous. And yet here we have this, like, well, if you speak out or you offer critical thinking, right, you think somehow that by arguing or asking questions or being a critical thinker about the process, that person's just against you automatically, immediately, and especially if that person doesn't look like you. And that's where we all go wrong. That honestly is the most racist thing of all, when you believe immediately that someone, because they don't look like you and asks a hard question or asks thought-provoking questions or steps out of the line that you want them to stay in, that suddenly they are evil, bad, racist, whatever. That actually is in and of itself not, I mean, that's very limited in thought. That's super not, what's the word I'm looking for? Inclusive, for those who love that term. Right? That doesn't really leave a lot of room for critical thought and other things. And so when we use something like this quote from Dr. King to silence critical thinkers, I don't think Dr. King was like looking for that. He was looking for people that were not wanting to engage in the process. It wasn't like they were trying to now's not a good time for this. Now, when people are saying, hey, defund the police is bad language, we love the idea, and you miss that to say, no, you adopt our slogan or you're just as racist as other things, bad person. Come on. You are not helping the process forward. You're just glomming on to your ideological catchphrase, thinking this is so cool, it makes a great hashtag, and we're going to get this done. Not if you have to keep redefining words and you spend more time explaining that defund doesn't mean defund and abolish doesn't mean abolish. That's a losing battle all the time, okay? You can come up with better words. The English language is full of them. Better words. So, back around to this idea of justice, and this is what's most important for tonight. And I hope you hung around this long, and I'm going to challenge you. I will. Anyway, this is why this correlates to justice. And here's where I was. When I read this and I started processing this idea of justice, Dr. King was not talking about, right, the absence of order and justice, or the absence of order for the sake of justice, he was talking about literally someone who wants to keep the peace at all costs, even if there is no justice. So that was the idea of their idea of order was like tidiness. Like, right, I just want things to look tidy. I want, like, think of someone who's willing to shove everything in the closet because their family's coming, shutting the door super hard, even though it's jam-packed with crap and garbage, and hoping that the house looks tidy enough because they don't want the chaos of that, right? Versus the idea of someone saying, hey, what's the best way to deal with this garbage? And can we talk about how to deal with it in an honest manner and actually seek real and true justice? And here's why this is important. I posted this on my Instagram a few weeks or a couple weeks ago, and this is kind of where this all sort of came to. Justice without order. Okay, justice in the absence of order becomes vengeance. Justice without order becomes vengeance. Justice is a key element in the founding of our country, and its importance to everyone who lives here. Everyone who exists on the dirt we call the United States of America benefits from the idea of justice, right? Not vengeance. And we all need to be working toward justice as much as we need to be working toward freedom. I talked about that a couple weeks ago. But we need to be working toward justice and equality in justice. Equal justice is important, and the work that it takes to actually get to equality in justice is incredibly important. So, if we take order out of justice, if there's no order left, then we're just left with vengeance. And here's why this is important. Vengeance fails societies. Bottom line. Vengeance fails us as people. Vengeance is a liar. Vengeance is not justice. It's not even closely related to justice. It's just taking matters into your own hands, seeking recompense, right? Seeking repayment the best way you see fit, without order, without objectivity. It's just all in how you feel and what you want, and it is a liar. Vengeance is a liar. If you think of it as a person, vengeance is the little devil sitting on your shoulder. Vengeance is a liar because it will not fulfill what it offers. It offers this type of satisfaction. It offers this sort of empty promise of making you feel like you've been vindicated if you get vengeance. There's an old saying that if everyone goes around, like if we just continue in the process of an eye for an eye, which is vengeance, an eye for an eye leaves everyone blind. And if all we want is vengeance, then we're not seeking justice. We're not seeking actual justice. We're just seeking what we want that we think will make us feel better, and it will become imbalanced. And the cycle of vengeance continues repeatedly, right? Because once someone who's been, like, vengeance has been taken out on, that person then comes back and says, I need revenge for the vengeance taken out on me, and it just begets more ugliness. And it doesn't ever result in actual justice. And I think that's incredibly important for our society to understand. If we're just looking for justice, we're doomed. We're doomed, y'all. Vengeance will not get us what we want. It will not make us feel how we think it will. It will leave us empty, beleaguered on the side of the road, thirsting for something real, which is actual justice. And that takes work. Vengeance is easy because it's just emotive. Justice is labor. Justice is work, and that's work by everybody working toward the same thing. And so when people are out here saying, no, we need order in the middle of this, and I realized earlier, on this side it's law and order and nothing more, and it doesn't seem like those people are interested in the equality of justice that people are looking for, and I get that because it can come off that way. But then on the other hand, where it's like everything's justified, we're just going to do what we want because we've been under the thumb of whatever it is for so long, and neither meet in the middle, then we're missing justice on actual justice on both sides. The problem is, and the real problem, and here let me qualify this just to make sure that we're talking on this. I'm not talking about stupid paybacks for something your ex-girlfriend. I'm not talking about like vengeance, like, oh, pro revenge on Reddit or what, like petty revenge on, like there are threads devoted to like the stupidness of like stupid personal revenge things. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about we get into vengeance in the place of actual justice. Okay? That's a whole different kind of ugly, and that is not anything that our societies, and I would say most people sitting in the middle ground, right? Most people are looking for actual true justice, are willing to step in and do the work toward actual true justice. It just in the same way people are willing to work toward actual true freedom. But then we got people on one side screaming that America sucks, it's horrible, there's nothing good about it, we want to burn it all down. And we have people that are elected to office right now that are saying that crap, right? And then there are other people on the other edge that are saying, America's so great, we're never going to change a thing. And that's just as stupid as ever but in reality, we can always be pursuing and perfecting our pursuit of the founding principles of this country, which are in their essence amazing. I think most people in the middle look and see that. They go, hey, actually, if we talk about like really justice for all, equality under the law, freedom, life, liberty, pursuit of, I'm going to like echo those things. You might get sick of hearing that from me. But this country was founded on good things, good principles, solid core beliefs that said that every person, every being under God's eye is gifted with this inalienable right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, equality under the law, that there should be no favorites. And I realize that's taken some adjustments over time. I'm not denying the truth of our history, the blemishes, the spots. We've talked about that before, right? I'm talking about the reality of if we exchanged justice for vengeance, right, which is basically a justice crafted in our own image. Here's the problem. It's just another rabid form of injustice. Think about that for a second. Vengeance is just another rabid form of injustice. And it can be as a sword swung in all different directions, right? Vengeance is the same injustice that oversaw lynchings and kangaroo courts and Jim Crow and all those kinds of things. That was just vengeance. Vengeance swinging back the other way isn't going to make anything actually better. So we really, as a society, got to identify and work on this as a whole and be committed to this. I think that's what's most important, is being committed to the work of this, not some of the garbage that's being peddled by like certain factions and small. I think everyone in the middle portion, right, which is the most of us, we recognize there are some inequality issues, but there are a lot of equality issues as well. Like there are a lot of areas where there are a lot more opportunities, access. We've got to be honest about that. But there are areas where we can always improve, always improve. There's nothing wrong with saying we always need to be improving, to be critical of ourselves, our growth, our progress. Those are areas where as a country we have to be committed. And so here we are. I feel like the problem is that right now there's a lot of cries for vengeance. And they're not looking for justice. And I've had some discussions where people are just like, well, this and this. And I'm just like, that doesn't sound like justice. That sounds like vengeance. And people like, that's what they're really kind of, I don't know, like looking for, or in the moment, it just feels like that would be better if we could just And I realize emotion gets us all. But the hard truth about vengeance is it's just more injustice being swung in different directions. Getting true justice, like really getting true justice, takes work and patience and endurance. And it is worth every last bit of it. Vengeance is literally like nothing more than it's like if it were jewelry, it'd be the cubic zirconia of the justice world. It would be literally a fake promise. It would look good if you held it up certain ways, but in reality, it's just a cheap shortcut that will rob us all of true satisfaction and true justice. So I'm just God, I'm hoping, I'm praying, whatever. That people would grab hold of this idea that order and justice go hand in hand. And what Martin Luther King was not talking about was actually the process of justice. He was talking about people that were looking to keep a certain level of peace, tidiness, that kind of order, right? Without disruption, without creating change. And I don't think anyone's in that space right now. I think maybe there are some. But I think most people that sit in this politically homeless, political nomad camp are looking at all of this going, we want change. We don't want some of the crazy radical things we hear, right? We're not willing to burn the entire system down for the sake of the few screeching voices, but we're definitely willing to look at fixing the things that need to be fixed if we can actually identify and fix them, which we should be able to do. We're smart people, right? And we're not looking over here going, we're just going to ignore this and pretend that everything's okay, because that's also stupid, equally stupid, if not even worse, right? That's just denial. So, somewhere in this space here where I exist, there are a ton of people going, how do we effectively seek change, right? Work toward justice and freedom for everybody? And those are the questions we've got to keep asking, right? So, I realize all the things going on, all the things I'm going to talk about. Maybe this falls like a pan on an empty floor. I don't know, but this has been on my mind for weeks at this point, and so I just had to get this out here. I just want to say this in closing. One, I hope everyone's taking care of themselves out there. I got some news this weekend. My grandmother fell and broke her arm, and in the middle of all this COVID stuff, she had to go to the emergency room by herself. And she's in her 80s, and she's struggling with the emotion of being stuck in the emergency room, and she called me in tears, and there's all these different things. And so, just make sure you're reaching out and loving the people that you need to love, making sure you're taking care of yourself and the people around you, being considerate, right? Considering other people and their needs, and not being, don't be a jerk. Just think for a minute, stop, slow down, and, be generous in this time to people who need generosity. Be caring to people who need care. All those things. Those are what I talk about when I say let's be better. Let's be better. Let's be better in our pursuit of freedom and justice for everyone. Let's be better in how we treat one another, right? Being good neighbors, good friends, good family members, all of those things. Let's be better than yesterday. Let's be better today. Let's be better tomorrow. Again, one of those things I kind of borrowed that is the great guys, once again, to circle back around, the guys that live bearded, they're great products. They have some great shirts that say do better. Recognizing that every day, right? My obligation is to do a little bit better than I was yesterday. Making that choice to go out and pursue and do good things for other people and for my community and for my society and for my culture, and making sure that we are a growth-oriented people. So that's good stuff. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I'm Jay the Gray. You've been grayed out. Wait. Oh, thought you were going to go. Maybe you did. If you're still here, like, subscribe, share. Like, subscribe, share, like, subscribe, share, like, subscribe, share. Social media links are down below. All the things. Do it. Grayed out.